Hey, welcome back to the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge, and today we have Tomorrowland. Yeah, this is the George Clooney starring 2015 film. It is 2 hours and 11 minutes long. Yeah, it is George Clooney doing a Disney film. I mean, he's been Batman. He tends not to do movies that don't involve all of his friends also co-starring with him and just basically hanging out and partying each night, I guess, or just going out to dinner with Julia Roberts and Brad Pitt every night after shooting. It's rare for him to be one of basically four cast members. There's five, six. Okay, there's maybe a half dozen major cast members in this, with some guest appearances and a lot of character actors and things like that. But for the most part, we're working with four main characters that kind of go throughout the film. In fact, he's barely in the beginning, but he's very important to the third act, because mainly what the story is about is a boy who is an inventor, who is a bit of a genius, and has some really optimistic ideas about the future. He has something to share at the 1964 World's Fair. Yeah, my mom went there way back when. It was in New York City, Queens, I think. It was in New York. That's also where Stark Expo happened, but never mind that. That didn't actually happen. That was just in the movies. But the 1964 World's Fair in New York was a real thing, and that was the first place you could go see Disney's It's a Small World ride. Lots of innovations there. Back when we would see people showing off their innovations, whether it's in technology and energy, with automotive or travel, just all these kind of things. We have a thing called CES now, which is mainly just closed to the media and the industry types, not for the public, but that's in Las Vegas every January. But back in the past, we would have different World's Fairs that would show off all sorts of innovations to the public. And that was kind of neat. A lot of the things from Walt Disney World, I've been there so long, my brain is forgetting the world of the future type of presentation that you can sit in. The People Mover. We don't have the People Mover anymore in Disneyland, but we certainly have Space Mountain. And of course, with a movie called Tomorrowland, does Space Mountain, can you see Space Mountain? Do they ride Space Mountain in it? They do not, but you can find Space Mountain in this movie if you look very closely. Now, this kid, we get to see what this kid is when he discovers this new world, led on by a pretty young girl named Athena, who gives him the opportunity through one of these little buttons. Now it's already turned upside down. I thought I fixed that. Who gives him an opportunity to discover what's possible. This world of the future, the world of tomorrow. And we get to see that discovery firsthand. I'm not going to spoil the whole film for you, but this is basically the first 10 minutes of the film. And it's basically being told, in a sense, by his older self, played by George Clooney, who plays the kid's name is Frank Walker. Also wears a helmet that's slightly reminiscent of the kid from The Iron Giant. Yes, Brad Bird directed this. He's known for his wondrous kid adventures and with giant robots. So yeah, he knows this scenario. And yes, in Tomorrowland, are there giant robots? Absolutely. Do they have character? You know they do. So this is the story of Frank, where he discovered a brave, strange new world of possibility, and he's like, that's before it all went to hell. And we get to see that story then picks up with a different character named Casey Newton, played by Britt Robertson, and she is kind of our main protagonist through this. We follow her as she also receives one of these pins, and her life is utterly changed instantly, because just touching it zaps her into this other world. Like, what is going on here? The crazy thing about this, I saw this when it came out. I was excited to see it. It did not get rave reviews. There was no like, oh my gosh, we gotta go see this movie, unfortunately. But to me, I like the idea. But I have to admit, even though I saw it once in the theaters, I forgot 90% of it. I knew who the actors were. I knew Hugh Laurie was in it. I knew there's a girl named Raffi Cassidy who plays Athena. So between George Clooney, Britt Robertson, Hugh Laurie, and Raffi Cassidy, those are the 4 main characters I remembered. I know Casey has a little brother, and her dad is played by Tim McGraw, and her little brother is Pierce Gagnon. Yeah. So, but there was also some cameo appearances. A pair of appearances by Keegan-Michael Key and Catherine Hahn, Agatha all along. The 2 of them appear as collectible store owners, and it's where she goes. She figures, well, it's a collectible thing. They're searching eBay that people might have sold these things. Why not go to a collectible store and ask them what they know about this pin? Yeah. That leads to a little bit of trouble, but I'm not going to spoil that. But the most fun part of that experience in the collectible store is, one, to recognize all the stuff on the shelves as a nerd, a geek, and just it feels like there's a million references squeezed into every square inch of that room. Yes, there is tons of Star Wars things, not just visibly there, but audio cues everywhere throughout. And Keegan-Michael Key is a big nerd as well, so I don't know how much of a nerd Catherine is, but now she's part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. She'd better get used to it, because she got action figures based on her now. But throughout this, you see references to Disney classics, The Black Hole. Of course, The Incredibles, also directed by Brad Bird, and also an Iron Giant reference, at least one, in the background. An Iron Giant reference in that store. So yeah, there's, I think, Gort from classic When the Earth Stood Still is a component in the background. I could be wrong. It might not be Gort. It might be one of those other just really strange retro robots from back then. I can't keep them sorted in my head. But there is it's for geeks like me. You can probably play that scene over and over and over again and find something new every single time. So it's for something like this, for me, I enjoy it. Now, I'm trying not to spoil anything, because I realize that a lot of people may not have seen this. And also because of the fact that Disney Plus, like the day it was released, like it was on Disney Plus for a week and then it disappeared. That was like a couple of years ago. Because I remember adding it to the list. It's like, yeah, it's being added on this date. It's going to be there, so it'll be in the mix. And then it got picked once years ago. Like, it wasn't even on for a month before the number came up in this for my series to watch Tomorrowland. I went to find it. It was gone. Like, what's going on? It was a licensing thing with different streaming services and whatever else. It was a new time for streaming services. Anyway, and it was a Disney thing, so why would Disney not have it? But it went away, and it came back recently, so now, thankfully, I get to watch it again. When it comes to visual effects, when it comes to the design of the city, just absolutely gorgeous. You see the city, by the way, in place of the castle at the very beginning, as you see at the beginning of every Disney film. Very much futuristic and everything else. It has, it's got big, wide not rotoscope. It's just, the big CinemaScope kind of feel to it, of classic and futuristic stuff, that this retro futurism thrown into it all over it. We're going to see that again, like in the Fantastic Four First Steps film that's coming this summer. It's that kind of mix of the past and the future all together in one. That is just rampant in this. So it's something, if you like that kind of thing, it should be fun for you. When it comes to story, it's about, finding people and people choosing to make a difference about the future. And that's how Tomorrowland comes to be. At least in our existing real world, if we were ever going to reach an era of Tomorrowland, no, not necessarily the section of the park, which is now kind of dated because our concept of what a futuristic Tomorrowland might look has changed considerably since 1955, which, again, I don't think Tomorrowland, especially like the Space Mountain thing, was not there, obviously, in 1955. That didn't come around. Space Mountain didn't come in until like 1977, and a little bit before that in Magic Kingdom. So, yeah, that was a whole different thing. So, it definitely, the People Mover and the Astro Blasters and all sorts of different things, inner space, all different things were added and removed throughout Tomorrowland in the parks over the years because our concept of futuristic science and technology has constantly changed. These days, it doesn't change. It hasn't changed much. And we do that because of nostalgia. It's stuck in that way because it's nostalgia. And if we change it, everybody throws a fit, and it's like, it's not the Tomorrowland I know and I love. Well, things change. It's got to be Tomorrowland at some point. What this does is takes some of the aesthetic that we know and love from Tomorrowland in the parks that this movie is based on, because Disney is not about to leave 1 square inch of that park not monetizable in film. But we got rides for Haunted Mansion and Pirates of the Caribbean, and Tiana's new Splash Mountain version of Splash Mountain, of course. There's no such thing as anything that's going to be happening in the park that is not already from an existing IP. We got Star Wars, we got Galaxy's Edge over here, we got, the Dumbo ride, we got the carousel for Mary Poppins. It was there before Mary Poppins, but a special horse for Mary Poppins. So there's everything. Snow White and Toad's Wild Ride. All these things are going to be made into a movie, or a movie is going to be, or a ride will be made from a movie or a TV series at some point or another, especially if they're popular. And Tomorrowland was due for something. How they did it? A lot of people didn't go see the movie, or they just didn't care. George Clooney is certainly a draw, but actors technically aren't even a draw anymore unless it's a franchise, unless it's a big franchise. You can get Johnny Depp in every Pirates of the Caribbean, you're going to do all right. It's just the way it is. But for an untested thing like Tomorrowland, you can throw George Clooney in there, and everybody's mom is going to go see that. It's like, George Clooney, but it's not solely set around him being on screen all the time, because our main focus is Casey, and Casey is discovering things left and right that she does not understand, but she is eager to learn more. And that is the motivating factor in what brings people to a new generation, to a new world. And I hope that this doesn't time out. Okay. It brings us to a world like Tomorrowland. And yes, this is mostly set in our real world, but there are moments in this Tomorrowland. How we get there, what it is it the future? Is it our future? Do we have a future? And that is actually one of the biggest hooks in this, is if we were given the information to make the world a better place, to improve the world through science and technology and ecological endeavors to improve the health of the world, to not destroy it, not to deplete its resources, there's not a mention of global warming or climate change in this whatsoever. But that is a humongous element in the messaging of this, because the funny thing is about this is there's never really a mention of when they say Tomorrowland, that what year is it? This is year 3000, 4000. What is this? It's never that. It's never about that. And there's a reason for that. And I'm not going to explain it, but you'll see why in the film. But it comes down to just the messages. Are we going to do anything? When we are told what is wrong, will we even bother to do anything about it? And very often, as you know right now, there are people actively working against it, calling the things that are evident around us absolute lies. That's not real. These things aren't real. They're not really happening. And by the way, I need to make a couple $1 trillion, so screw everybody else. There's other people who are just like, I don't know, so it doesn't affect me directly, so I don't care. I'm not going to do anything. What can I do? I'm not a genius. I'm not an engineer. I'm not an ecologist. And the whole movie is packed with geniuses. But it's the idea that it's not just geniuses that change the world. But we do need smart people who can not just grapple with science and scientific concepts and understanding things that we don't understand yet. And it also needs people who are dreamers, who are optimistic, that want to see not a post-apocalyptic world, but a world that's like Star Trek. There's no Star Trek references in this. There might be in the background in that toy shop, but there's two roads. There's many roads actually, but there is two major roads, and this makes a big case for us just giving a dang about anything. And while that moment where they kind of spell that out does drag a little bit, the way this all looks, the way it all works together, the way Casey is fantastic. If she's doing even half of her physical stunts, the girl is taking a lot of hits, and it's pretty dang funny where she gets knocked around a lot. Not that I'm like, oh my gosh, I love when chicks get beat around a lot. No, that's not a thing. I'm just saying that there's a lot of physical comedy in this, which is surprising, which I did not expect. But yeah, it's also in moments where it's, she's in trouble, but very often a lot of the physical comedy is played off. A lot of the stunts she does are meant to be funny, at least the way she does them, I guess. Or maybe it's her stunt person, I don't know, but either way it's done, the way it's filmed, it's not scary. So for little kids. And would little kids get into this? To a degree, I think, because we get to see this from a kid's point of view very, very early on. And what kid wouldn't want to just travel to another land where things are flying everywhere, and you're discovering just where things are hovering, and it's just commonplace to these people. And it'd be great that we could do this, these things. It's great to be able to swim in that kind of world of tomorrow. Isn't that the ride? The exhibit thing? The world of tomorrow? All those things. That's kind of at the heart of this, the core of this, and that adventure, that sense of adventure, that sense of optimism about making a better future, not ignoring the things that make things a worse future, and not actively making things a worse or bad future. It's the choices we make. That's at the heart of this. So I like this a whole lot more than I remember. Of course, I barely remember any of it. I honestly, I remember George Clooney being in it, and there was this girl who in the 1960s who got a little boy to ride this Small World After All. It's a small world ride, yes. Did I say this already? In 1964, that was the first place you could ride It's a Small World before they added it to Disneyland. Yeah, so, but that ride in New York apparently had aspect to it that was very, very different. That I don't think we have in Disneyland. But they filmed it in Disneyland, so it doesn't matter. And by the way, Small World is not in Tomorrowland. I think it's in Fantasyland. I feel like I've said that already. If you watch this far, you know, yeah, okay, just stop. You're repeating yourself. Anyway, I say give it a shot. Give it a new look. 10 years later, there's always the fear that when I was watching this, I was like, are they gonna make a reference to Elon Musk or something? By the way, if you do like, there's a neat part of this which I really appreciated, which has a very National Treasure type of vibe to it. No Nick Cage, but it has a neat aspect to it that I do not want to ruin because it's pretty fantastic. How do you get, when you don't have the technology at your fingertips, how do you get to Tomorrowland? Well, we discover that it's not as simple as one might expect, but the discovery of that, how along the way, along with Casey, is just pretty fantastic. And it's the kind of thing that would change the world if it was true. So, yeah, I say definitely give this a shot if you have not seen it. It's the kind of thing that a lot of people passed over. And watch it before it disappears again for whatever reason. So, yeah. That's all I got to say, I think. I feel like there should be a lot more. There are some things that I think I was thinking of when I was watching it that I was like, oh, I got to touch on that. And I probably forgot them. But, oh well. Let's pick tomorrow's episode, and I'll think about that one now. 92. All right. I don't know why this is under reality and documentary. It doesn't feel like that. Maybe it's a behind the scenes. Probably that's what it is. But I think we've watched pretty much everything from this original Disney Channel series and its spin-off, its films. I think we've even seen the holiday special. This might be the very last thing we have to watch from High School Musical, the series, the special. Yeah, I saw all the movies. I saw the series based on the movies that referenced the movies. It's confusing. The High School Musical, the series, the special, is what we're watching next on the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. I'll see you back here tomorrow with that. Bye.